How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and we are back for another
Lost Hero of the Golden Age.
Yes, this is Lost Heroes of the Golden Age, and we're doing kind of a request video. Our requester here was talking about this hero throughout the ages, and he appeared on a number of different publications throughout the Golden Age. In fact, he's appeared on a number of publications throughout the ages. He's probably one of the most famous creatures in people in mythology. There's a number of stories that he's done in his past. You may know him best for his 12 labors. He is
the Lion of Olympus, the Prince of Power, the son of Zeus, the Almighty Hercules.
No, it's Heracles.
His name is Hercules.
No. His name is pronounced Heracles.
Everyone says Hercules.
Right. Everybody is pronouncing the Roman, Everybody is pronouncing the Roman translated version of the Greek name, which is actually pronounced Heracles. Why does everybody get that wrong? Yes, we are actually covering Heracles in this video, and this video is going to be broken down into a number of videos so we can properly cover all the people named Heracles throughout the ages. Now, these are going to be the kind of one-shots to one-and-done stories where Heracles is either part of the story or has appeared as the story in this, and a couple of the stories actually mention some of his labors, which honestly you probably could have done just a 12 story set of all of his 12 labors, but they didn't do that. Anyways, we are going to be covering Heracles. He is the Lion of Olympus, the Prince of Power, which the Marvel version does that more than anyone else. So let's go ahead and cover these one spot and one and done appearances of the legendary figure Heracles, and then next week we'll cover some of his other appearances where they've had more issues devoted to him, which honestly, if you're going to be covering somebody this big, that's the way you should do it. So let's get started with this
Lost Hero of the Golden Age.
Lost Heroes of the Golden Age with Heracles. Heracles is probably one of the most well-known mystical figures in the mythology, except for maybe Thor, but a large part of that is modern comics. Now, Heracles had a number of appearances in the Golden Age. Fox, Novelty, Charleston, Quality, even Fawcett and DC, to name a few. Now, I don't know how long he was in the DC comic books. Wonder Woman was Greek mythology, and I didn't read Wonder Woman back then, so I don't know how often Heracles might have played a part in that. But in a lot of these comic books, he had little one spots where he was part of the overall story, and then there's a couple where the stories were about Heracles. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cover some of these stories that Heracles was in from the Golden Age. Now, there was a run of Heracles in the early Quality comics, and there was a small run in Blue Ribbon comics, Blue Ribbon being MLJ. Now, I know we didn't cover this in MLJ month. I didn't think about it at the time. Now, in the next couple of videos, we'll cover the run from Quality and the run from Blue Ribbons. This one, we're going to cover the one-shots and the stories that concern him. So let's go ahead and cover these one spots where his name was brought up, but he wasn't part of the overall story, and then we'll briefly cover the stories that he was in. And all of these are different. All of them have their own representation of Heracles, because in the early stories, I don't know if they described him as much, so everybody has their own interpretation. I mean, even in the 70s cartoons where they used Hercules, and even in the Disney movie, they've always portrayed him as a different person. So let's go ahead and look how they were bringing him out in the Golden Age, and then you can see a couple of the ideas that they wanted to go with. So let's go ahead and cover Hercules. We're going to start off with Mystery Man Comics. This is Mystery Man Comics number 2. About the middle of the issue, we're dealing with Zanzibar the Magician. Apparently, Zanzibar the Magician decides to take a trip through time because he is looking for Venus, which is in connection of the Venus de Milo statue from what I can guess. He encounters Zeus, and Zeus wants him thrown out, so he says, Hercules, throw this strange being into the lions, and Zanzibar turns him into a bird before he engages into a battle with the mighty Zeus. I think I forgot to mention that Mystery Man was Fox Comics. Okay, we come to Blue Bolt, Volume 2, Number 5, from Novelty Comics. This story is Sergeant Spook, and apparently he encounters the ghost of a Cyclops. And while he's trying to deal with it, Cyclops being a giant, he realizes that he is woefully unable to take this on. But then the ghost of Hercules appears and does battle with the Cyclops and ends up beating him. Sergeant Spook, concerned that the Cyclops comes back, Hercules says that he will guard the mouth of the cave and make sure that the Cyclops never journeys back to Earth. Or to the modern Midgard, whatever you want to call it. Oh no, he won't. I'll guard the exit to the cave and you may be sure that the Cyclops will never again enter the mortal world. Okay, so mortal world. And we have 2 stories coming out of, let's see, Charleston Comics from the Yellow Jacket series. This is a Diana the Huntress. It starts with Zeus sending out his children to offer aid to others, and when he talks to Hercules, he says, "You have summoned me, mighty father. Yes, great Hercules, to you I give you the task of aiding the allies wherever and in whatever manner you judge it best to do so. And as you leave, command Mercury to come to me." Now, I find it kind of humorous that Hercules here appears to be dressed in a leopard skin, considering that through all the Heralds of Hercules, he wore the Nemean lion skin, which he got from his first labor. So I find it kind of funny that he's wearing an animal skin that was not part of the 12 labors. For the second appearance, so we come to Yellow Jacket number 5, and this is the same publisher, and Hercules is totally different in this one. He is white bearded and white facial hair. In this one, apparently the Germans, I guess they conquered the Greeks, and they wanted to show them, the Greeks, that they were the Supermen, and the immortal beings from Mount Olympus to send down and try to show the Nazis who's really the Superman. And when Hercules takes the field, he starts tossing the Nazis around as if he were ragdolls, and they were ragdolls. And this also inspires the Greeks to take arms against the Nazis. And then all the gods start to work together and eliminate the Nazi threat and show them who truly was the Supermen, which would be the immortals, but they're not men. Anyways, he helps the other gods take down the Nazis and get them out of Greece. Now we come to Hit Comics, which was done by Quality. Now, both of these stories have involve Kid Eternity. While Kid Eternity is being shown around, and let's see, by Mr. Keeper. Yeah, that's who it is. Mr. Keeper is basically showing Kid Eternity that he has the power to call people through the time stream. One of the people that they mention as he's touring and seeing who he can be is Hercules. Now, a little later on, he would actually, let's see, that was in Hit Comics number 25. In number 30, the time stream gets completely messed up, and the Romans are in modern time, and they're trying to execute people. So Kid Eternity, who turns into the beings that he requires the help from, he takes on their powers and their appearance and their abilities. He calls actually on Hercules and becomes him, and tosses a number of the Romans around and beats them back, while being a number of other identities too, while waiting for Father Time to fix the time machine, which he does, and everything gets back to normal after, I don't know what kind of machine that it would take, but the machine broke and collided all time together, and then he fixed it and time was separated again. And again, these were minor shots. And now we get into Jumbo Comics produced, and it's a story from someone called Stuart Taylor. Apparently they have an old man that teams up with them, who I guess is the professor with the travel to go through ability to go through time. Now, they want to get a local strongman competition going, but the local talent isn't very impressive. So, a couple of them travel back in time, and they locate Hercules and Goliath. Yes, the Christianity mythos and the Greek mythos. May have existed, may have not. So, Hercules and Goliath start battling each other, and they cause a massive amount of destruction. And since their challenger is still, active, they're just tearing each other completely apart, tearing down the tents. So Stuart Taylor, after they are trying to recover a time machine, he decides to take out Goliath and Hercules. First, he uses, sorry, Bobby, but the fight is almost murder. Let's see David stop Goliath with a slingshot. Yes. So he uses the slingshot and he subdues Goliath. Now Hercules is angry. How darest thou stop the battle, puny one? Thou hast caused thy own doom. And as Hercules descends on the Stuart Taylor, he shoots him in the chest with an arrow. You see, Herc, you met your end by a bow of Phoebus the shepherd. I don't tend sheep, but I am tending to you now. So he shoots an arrow into his chest, which subdues him long enough that they're able to transport them back to their own time. Stuart Taylor in every issue of Jumbo Comics. So, I don't know who came up with the idea of Goliath fighting Hercules, but that is an interesting story and probably would cause a massive amount of destruction. Okay, that was Jumbo Comics number 107. Now we're going to go into Boy Comics number 9, produced by Levi Gleason. You might know them from the Captain Battle and Daredevil stories. Now, I have absolutely nothing to say about this villain on the cover, so let's go ahead and cover what this was. Something called Yankee Congo. I guess that's how it's pronounced. He ends up going to this steel factory. I believe it was a steel factory. And he sees all these women that were manning the machines, which a lot of that did happen. A lot of the men went over to fight the wars, and the women took over a lot of the jobs when the men were overseas. That was also the story behind A League of Their Own, which was based on a true story. So this kid gets knocked out by this giant hook that hits him in the head, and he finds himself back in the time where Hercules was taking on the labor of needing to get Hippolyta's girdle, which is actually one of the 12 labors. Now, this Hercules, I don't want to say he's inept. I mean, he's like, I am Hercules, the strongest man on earth, but woe is me, my weak spot has been rooted out, and I am very unhappy, and that makes me very mad. He doesn't want to have to take Hippolyta's girdle, and I find it really funny right here. He takes out a lion, which it's not the Nemean lion, but just the sight of him hauling the lion up in the air by the tail is just hilarious. Now, the Yankee, he ends up getting the girdle from Hippolyta by talking to the artist of the comic book. I don't know what wall that, in fact, breaks, but he gets a girdle and convinces Hippolyta to put that one on because it looks better than the current girdle she's wearing. Yes, this is very sexist, and he is able to get Hercules the girdle for his labor, and then he wakes up. I guess this lady hears him, and he's talking in his sleep and slaps him, and what hit me? Who done it? Let me at him. It's no use, friend. You better stay here in dreamland. The end. It's a story. Now, the next story comes from Wiz Comics. Wiz number 26 out of Fawcett. We basically have a story of Hercules. The beginning, it's a text story, and it has a picture here. The second letter of Shazam is H. It stands for Hercules, the strongest and the bravest. This just basically is just it's a story of Hercules, his early life, how he got trained, and it briefly covers over the 12 labors, like how he took on the Nemean lion, captured the Ephemeran boar. I probably just said that one wrong. The girdle of Hippolyta, getting the cattle from the creature known as Giro, the 6-armed, 3-headed monster that kept the red cattle. It doesn't seem to mention him sailing on the Argo with Jason and the Argonauts, and it also doesn't seem to mention the Iliad. But I mean, to list all that stuff from Hercules, you'd need more than 2 pages. After his death, he was borne to Mount Olympus to become the companion of the gods. No, after his death, he actually became a god. I think maybe they highlighted all of the letters, because they're specifically saying that they highlighted the letter H. But I don't know. I haven't really dived into all of Wiz Comics. But this is when Hercules was mentioned, just a basic rundown of who he is and what he was capable of. Now, the appearance of Hercules in the DC Comics comes with the very first appearance of Wonder Woman. In the story, Hippolyta starts to tell, and this is the startling story unfolded by Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, to the princess, her daughter, basically telling him how they came to the land of Themyscira and how they became the Society of Women. Hippolyta talks about how Heracles came for her girdle, and that was given to her by Aphrodite, and she actually beat Heracles. But she says, and when I did, but Heracles, by deceit and trickery, managed to secure my magic girdle. So basically, this is just briefly covering the labor where Heracles had to get the girdle. Now, Heracles' story doesn't have anything to do with the rest of Hippolyta's story after that, so they go on with hers, but she does mention Heracles and how he played a part in the creation of Themyscira, maybe not outright doing it, but his hands are definitely there as part of the creation. So for the last one that we're going to cover in this video comes out of Stamp Comics. This comes from Stamp Comics number 6, produced by Youthful Magazine. What I found interesting about this is I shipped through a couple of the stories. Apparently, I don't know if they were promoted by the U.S. Postal Service or not, but they were talking about the stamps that they had, and there were stories attached to each one of the stamps. I guess maybe showing it the history or the story behind the stamps might make them more desirable. So if you're a stamp collector and you want to see some of the stamps that existed in the Golden Age, you might want to go ahead and find yourself some issues of Stamps Comics. Now, in this one, they are covering Heracles and his 10th labor, where he had to get the cattle of Geryon. Now, they're not showing the entire 10th labor where he splits the gigantic mountain and connects the two seas together. They're just focusing on him going onto the island and fighting the three-bodied creature known as Geryon. At one point, he also battles... let's see, at the moment another foe appears, Geryon's two-headed watchdog. And this two-headed watchdog, I believe, is the brother of Cerberus. I know he's related to Cerberus in some way. I don't know a whole lot about the 10th labor. I just do know that he was to retrieve the cattle. Now, after he defeats Geryon, before he departs, let's see, but not all is well. When the exhausted Hercules falls asleep, some of the cattle are stolen by the fire-breathing giant Cossus. And he easily defeats the giant fire-breathing creature. I mean, come on, he just beated a three-bodied Geryon and a two-headed dog. Again, the Greek Herald starts back. But you can see that the stamp that they show, I mean, it's a pretty cool looking stamp. Let's see. Manico, 1948, Scott, number 210. I don't know anything about stamp collecting, so that might be more to a stamp collector. But this is interesting. Seeing the story behind the stamps does give them a new meaning to them. Makes them more sought after and desirable, depending on whether you like the story connected to it. And that is it of the Golden Age appearances of Heracles. Now, that's not going to be the only ones that we cover, but it's going to be the only ones for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. I think I might have screwed up a couple times in actually saying Hercules instead of Heracles. I grew up pronouncing it that way. So I hope you enjoyed this story. We've got a couple more videos of Heracles coming up. And till then, I'll be seeing you.